Hello, welcome back to Tony Dock Station. In this video I'm going to be talking about how I'm planning out my blocks for my track. So welcome back to this video. I'm going to do this video about how I'm planning out my blocks for laying my track. Now I can't do all of it because I'm still waiting for some feedback on the last video around what I should do with my station area, whether this way or this way, but you're going to get a rough idea of how I'm doing this. Now again, none of the track has been laid as yet. I'm planning out the blocks so that I can work out the sleeper spacing, where I need to cut the tracks, and where I need to put the isolated sections in. I cannot stress enough, you need to plan your track laying in as much as you can. It may take a bit of time, but you know what, it's got to be done, and I'd rather spend more time doing this right than rushing through and having it done wrong. So, blocks, what are they? If you know anything about the railways, which, to be honest with you, I didn't until I started this hobby, so I'm sort of learning this as I go along. So if you don't worry about it, it's all about learning. Blocks are sections of track in which only one train can occupy at a time. In the real railways, lines are divided up into blocks, and it's how the signalling works. So you'll have, there's different aspects of signalling. You can have 2, 3 or 4 aspects. I'm just going to talk about 3 aspects just because I think it's the best way to explain it. 3 aspects is you've got a red, you've got a yellow or an amber, and a green. So if we take this section here, this area is obviously going to be my station, which is this area here. So if we go from this point here, going this way, the start of the block will be at the exit of this point, going this way, and then it's going to be the main station. And then I'm going to draw an invisible line, although there'll be an actual cut in the track here just before the curve, and then I'm going to draw another line there at the beginning of the point, and I'm going to draw another line here at the end of this point here, which doesn't exist, but just for now. So the track has been divided up into 1 section, 2 sections, which is the curve, and 3 sections, which is the straight, which is this bit going up here. So if we think about this, you can have a train coming in to the station. It arrives in the station and stops on the platform. It stops at the end of the platform, which is where the next signal will be. So there'll be a signal here allowing it into this area, and there'll be a signal here allowing it into this area, and there'll be another signal here allowing it into this area. So the train, as it's coming around the curve here, it has a green signal. So it continues through, goes into the platform and stops. This signal is now changed to red, so that any other trains coming up behind will have to stop at the signal, knowing that they cannot enter the block as there is an obstruction on the line, which is more than likely going to be a train, but it might not always be a train. But red is danger. You cannot pass the red under, just for this scenario. There are times when you can, but this, for simple explaining, you can't. Red is danger. So train's here, passengers are lighting, and it's ready to go, and it has a green signal here to go into this block. So it continues round and goes into this block. As it leaves this section here, passes this signal now goes to red because there is a train in this block here. This signal doesn't go to green, it goes to yellow or amber. And what that means is that it's clear to proceed into the next block, but expect the next signal to be red. So what it means is the block ahead of you is unoccupied, but the one thereafter is occupied. So this train can now pull into the station area on the yellow, but it must stop at the red. Even if it wasn't planning on stopping at the station, it must stop at the red. But let's say it's still here for now, because this train isn't going to stop at this point because it's got a green, so it continues along the line. as again the rear of the train leaves here, it goes into this block. If this train has not yet departed, this signal will now go green. That means that the 2 blocks ahead of you are clear. This block here and this block here, which means that it's green here. This signal, however, will be yellow now that the train is in here, and this signal will be red. I hope that makes sense. So a train approaches, sees a green signal, can come in. The next train behind sees the red, it stops. The passengers alight, the train now leaves, it continues around and goes straight on because it's got greens all the way through. This train will see it phase to yellow or amber and then to green as it goes into the next block. And it can go through that way. So it will always be, in theory, you'll have a green, a yellow and a red where a train is following around. If there are no trains in front of it, obviously it will be greens up until there is an obstruction on the line. That is a very, very quick explanation of signalling in 3 aspects. 2 aspects is basically just red and green, and 4 aspects there is a double yellow. So if there was 4 aspects signalling whilst the train was in this block, instead of going to green here, it would get a double yellow, and then when the train goes into the next block, that's when that would get a green. So the double yellow just adds another block, so it would go red, yellow, double yellow, green. If that doesn't make sense, I do apologise. This isn't meant to be a proper explanatory video, but there are videos out there which explain it very well. So have a quick look around, but hopefully that will give you an idea of the signalling. So that's all well and good for the real railway, but how does that work in a model railway? Obviously the scales and the gauges are as close as we can get, but in reality in a model railway you're never going to get a curve like this in a real railway. That's just incredibly sharp, even though it's still 3rd and 4th radius. It's very, very sharp if you was to put it in the real world. So we have to allow blocks as best we can. So when I'm designing my blocks, forget about how many pieces of track. Do this without track. Just follow the cork line for the route. So let's start here. You can see, maybe come underneath here. You can see at the beginning of this point, I've got a little arrow pointing to the right, and this is block 1. So I now know that this is going to be the main station. This block continues all the way along, and I've measured it to be roughly 4 coaches and 1 loco, as that's probably going to be the longest train I can fit on here. And then I've given me a bit of extra room as well. And you see this arrow to the left is block 1, so between that arrow there at the point all the way along that track to here will be block 1. Ignore that for the minute. So everything to the left and there is the first block. So in theory there'll be a signal here controlling entry into the next block, and then it's the same above, but that's block 2. So got block 1 there and block 2 there, all the way back down. So the main stations, platform 1 and 2, are block 1 and block 2. Then there will be signals controlling progression into the next block. And likewise here, there will be signals controlling if you're coming this way or leaving, whichever way it is. Signals allowing, controlling entry into these blocks. Now obviously I've got probably enough space there for 1 whole section of flexi track, and probably just over half, so probably another 2/3. So what I'll do is, the best way to divide this for digital control is you don't necessarily want, you can do it, but you don't necessarily want, like I did in my old layout, just 1 solid piece of track connected, so you have 1 dropper for 1 block. The best way to get the best control is to have more than 1 section of track in each block. So what we'd like in the ideal world is to have this divided into 3. So we're talking about 1 block here. I'm trying my best to explain this without getting too confusing. So let's draw it out and explain. So we've got part 1 of the block there, and we want to divide there into 3. So just roughly, again, I'll won't do this, I'll actually measure it when I do it, but just for now, we'll put a line here, and we'll put a line here. So, I'll drop the pen. What I would do is I would lay a piece of track here. I would then cut one of the rails at this line here, so there is a gap in. You can do both, but just one is the minimum that's required. Put a cut in the rail, and then I would put another cut in the next section there, and then there would be a complete cut here as well. So what I've effectively done is put 3 sections of track, which will have their own individual dropper wire, and that would then go to the block detection unit. And I would say track detection 1, 2 and 3 consist of block 1. So 3 droppers in the software are linked to 1 block. And what that extra blocks enables the software to do is detect where the train is in the block and allow you for more precise control. So as the train comes off the point, it will know, okay, right, we're in section 1 of block 1. Okay, yeah, we're in section 2 of block 2 now. I'll start slowing the loco down even more, coming to a stop. Right, we're in the last section, so we want to be rolling to a stop for the stop or the red signal, and it knows exactly where it is, rather than just one solid piece of track. It goes, okay, right, the train's in block 1. Okay, I don't know exactly where it is, but I know it's travelling at this speed and it's roughly this length, so I think it's here now. And slow it down, and it's pretty accurate, but it's not going to be as precise as the software knowing exactly which section of the block it is in. So, for example, on my track plan here, this big long straight, which is basically the incline here, it's quite long. It's probably going to be about just over 2 flexi pieces, so that's just over 6 foot, I think. I think it's about 3 foot a section. So really, I want that divided up, because it's the longer it is, the less reliable the timing of the computer software will be. Whereas at least if I know, even if I divide that into 4 foot and 2 foot, at least then when it gets to the end, it goes, okay, right, I know it's in the last 2 foot now. 2 sections is better than 1, 3 sections is better than 2, and vice versa. But you obviously don't want too many. So going back to this then, I've got block 1 and block 2 there. And then I've got block 3 and block 4, which go around here, to the point work. I'm going to come on to points and how they're involved in blocks later. I don't want to get too confusing. But for now, just assume they're separate. They can be part of a block, but they can be separate. Just assume they're separate for now. Block 5 will be the decline into the docks. Block 6 will be the up or down line. I haven't worked out which way it is yet. Block 7 the other. Block 8 the other decline down into the docks. And then these 2 blocks here, you can see they finish and they go this way, and then the next block starts there going into the curve basically and round, and that'll be the end of the next block here. And you can see the end of the decline blocks here will be where the point work starts. And again, they will be divided up into separate sections within the block. So far I've counted just, I think, 31 blocks roughly. It's subject to change. However, there will be more than one section of track within each block. So what this will enable me to do is when I put my signalling in, so there will be another set of signals there, allow an entry into the curve section, and then there'll be another set of signals there and there. So again, I know I'm sort of talking through this and not necessarily being as clear as I probably could be, because it's not in front of you. I'm trying to explain it by pointing and showing you as best I can. But hopefully you'll get an idea of at least how you can divide your layout up into blocks and what the purpose of the blocks is and how they're sort of recognised in your computer controlled software. Just to do one last further bit of explanation, I've now laid this track here, the one above obviously isn't. This one is laid for the entirety of the first block. I'm just going to explain it so you can see it, what I mean by dividing into 3 sections. So it's joined by the insulating fish plates on the to the point there, and it comes along, and the first break in the track is there. You can see the main rail underneath is still solid, so the red wire and the black wire, and then carrying on to the end of the flexi track section, and you can see it's joined by the metal sleepers, and then just after there is another break in the track, but the bottom rail still continues, and it continues all the way to the end there, where there will be insulating fish plates into the next block. So what that does is gives me one block but with 3 sections, so I can power that with 3 different droppers into 3 different detections, and then those 3 detections will make up one block. So 150 centimeters long, that's measured out in 50 centimeter blocks. That's 50, 100 and 150 centimeters all the way to the end there, and then that's how it will control in one block with 3 different sections. So I hope that clarifies if my explanation wasn't before. So if you've got a track plan and you're not sure how to divide it up into blocks, just look at it as if it was a real railway and where you would probably be putting signals. So you've got a station section, I've got a curve section, and then a big straight. So wherever you want to divide trains up, where you don't want 2 trains close to each other, so you don't want a passenger service being immediately followed by a freight service or 2 passenger services, there's going to be some distance between them. So just look at your layout and where you would divide it up. So for a simple oval layout, I would probably divide it into the straight at the top would be 1 block, the entire 180 curve would probably be another block, the lower straight would be the 3rd block, and again the 4th 180, sorry, the second 180 all the way back round would be the 4th block. So for a simple oval, you'd probably look at 4 blocks. You wouldn't want 2 trains on each section, so you probably have 1 train there on 1 block, 2 block, 3 block. If that sort of helps you divide your layout up, I hope it does. If you do have any questions about blocks, or if you want me to explain this in a bit more detail, I will do in a later video, obviously when I get round to programming the blocks. But in terms of the track laying part, I wanted to do a video just to explain how I'm dividing up my layout into blocks, and when I actually do the laying you'll see where I'm making cuts. But planning is key of knowing where you're putting the blocks, and hopefully the explanation of the signals will sort of give you an idea as to where the blocks need to be. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them, but keep an eye out for the future videos as I'm doing the actual track laying, and then once we get trains moving, you'll see in the computer software how I set the blocks up, and hopefully that'll make a bit more sense. So thanks very much for watching this video. Hopefully this hasn't been too long, and hopefully it's at least been of some interest to you, or at least give you an understanding of what I'm trying to do, and if you're trying to do it, how you can do it as well. So again, thanks very much for watching. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button. At the time of recording this, I'm very close to 2,000 subscribers, so any love would be greatly appreciated. I do want to hit that milestone. And if you like my videos and what I'm doing, there's a bell button next to the subscribe button. If you click that, you'll get notifications as to when my next videos come out. So thanks very much for watching. I'm going to let you go in peace now. I'll see you on the next video. Cheers guys, bye.